I thought we should play some Bill Laswell.
Yes.
Or something that Bill Laswell is associated with, because poor Bill is in all sorts. I didn't realise when I was speaking on one of the shows last time we played something by one of Bill's outfits, I said I hope he's all right because he hasn't done anything in a couple of years. Well, it turns out he's not all right. He's got some health problems, and he's got a fundraiser. And whichever show this goes into, we'll put the link in the description, probably maybe in a pinned comment as well, and you can go and have a look at what's happening. But he's on the verge of losing his studio, because I think this is absolutely tragic. Bill Laswell, one of the most iconic producers that's ever been, certainly in the kind of music that I listen to, doesn't have enough money to pay the rent on his own studio, and because he's ill, his money is going on paying his medical bills. That is a fucking modern tragedy if ever there was one.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that, because as I've said before, I don't like everything that Bill's done. I don't follow him religiously, but he turns up so often in things that I do love that I've got to give him props. And I saw him live, was lucky enough to see him live when he played with Jah Wobble on the what was that called? I'll never remember the name of it, but there was a tour where he toured with Jah Wobble and Jackie Leibzeit. God, what a night that was.
That would have been a nice night.
Jah Wobble just... It wasn't because Jah Wobble, his bass was too loud. It was just... It wasn't... You know how... the uneducated amongst us would say, that's just too loud. Well, that was me that night. It's God almighty. It was like... Oh, it was industrial bass. It was... Your clothing was rattling with it. And poor Jackie Leibzeit sitting at the front of the stage without a bass drum, because his opinion is that if you've got a big bass like that, you don't need a bass drum as well. They just get in one another's way, and he was wincing through the whole concert. He was just this pained expression on his face as he kept that wonderful cyclic drumming that he does. But he looked like he was in pain the whole time, and poor Bill Laswell was there trying to play a second bass. I'm not sure I heard a note that Bill Laswell played all night, because there was only one bass on show, and that was Mr. Wobble's bass. So it was one of those nights where you think, I'm seeing all the legends that I love. I think Mark Isham was there as well, Jackie Leibzeit, of course, from Cannes. There was a couple others there as well. Gosh, I can't remember their names, but that's my memory. But all these legends on stage, and all I could hear was just this. It was one of these venues where you sit at a table and the tables were rattling. Everything was just moving. It was phenomenal.
I had that problem at a Tool concert one time where I happened to be sitting in the wrong part of the stadium where the bass was just getting trapped, and all I could hear was the bass guitar.
Wow.
And the bass guitar is integral for Tool, clearly, but if it's all you can hear, it's a horrible night, But
it was astonishing. Anyway, so this is a track which features Bill Laswell on bass, samples, loops and noises, Buckethead, the wonderful Buckethead, with a bucket on his head, literally, with guitars and noises, and Brain on drums. Ooh. So it should be good, shouldn't it? We've got John Zorn, Mick Harris, and Yamatsuka Ai. So this was recorded at Greenpoint Studio in New York, and also in OTR Studios in Belmont, California. Engineered as usual by Robert Musso, but also Oz Fritz, Bruce Calder and Matt Stein. So there's a whole bunch of people involved with this at various stages. So I've no idea, really, it's so long since I played this track I can't remember why I chose it. And I haven't got notes to work off. So we'll just have to trust my previous self that this is going to be okay. So this is for Bill, and hope you get well, Bill, and hope you solve your financial problems. It really sucks to hear all of that. And I hope the community gets around you and helps you out. So this is a track called Skull Crack / Cathedral, and it's from the album Sound Virus by Praxis. Available, as always, on Bandcamp.
Great track.
Oh wow, yeah.
I love Praxis. Praxis is one of my favorite supergroups, I think. I don't often recommend them to people because they're hard to find their albums, and most people don't like that kind of music anyway because it's just too out there. But the one thing I love the most about that track is the way Bill Laswell plays bass with Buckethead. Because I listen to a lot of Buckethead. Like I have about 20 or 30 of his CDs, and I've listened to probably 300 of his albums out of the 500 or 600 he's released. Yeah, you know. So he's and the thing with Buckethead is that he plays the bass and he plays the guitar a lot of the times, right? And he has a drum machine most of the time. So you get kind of tired by the typical drum loops he uses, and his bass playing is the same all the time. Like he's an amazing bass player, but I find it's all about the guitar. Everything else is just sort of a vehicle to get his guitar out there. So having a real bass player play with him that has a similar sensibility, because Bill Laswell, the bass he's playing sounds a lot like what Buckethead would do, but it's got more life to it. It sounds more energetic and full, whereas Buckethead would be thinner and a little just less inspiring. And I love the utilization. Like Bill is really good at pulling the best out of Buckethead, because you can hear like all those robotic tapping things he's doing, and Buckethead does that all over the place. But I find sometimes it's not very tasteful, but Bill knows how to produce it in a way that like he's presenting Buckethead better than he can present himself. So it's wonderful. It's going to be a shame. Like I think even though Praxis hasn't done much in a while, and Buckethead doesn't collaborate with people anymore for whatever reason, it's going to be a shame when we lose Bill eventually. That Buckethead's not going to have him anymore to lean on, as because John Zorn and Bill Laswell I think have done amazing things for Buckethead, as far as bringing his sound out into the public eye a little bit and refining it to a place that's more palatable and more accessible, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Buckethead just his instincts suit the track, like when he played with the Guns N' Roses, it didn't sound like Buckethead. Well, you can hear Buckethead on it, but it suits the song, right? It doesn't sound like a Buckethead song with Axl Rose singing. It sounds like a Guns N' Roses song with Buckethead playing guitar on it, But I don't know. Any attention you can bring to Buckethead, I think Buckethead is. I can't think of a good way to say it, because I don't want to say he's an underrated guitar player, because he is underrated. I think he's better than people give him credit for, because they consider Buckethead a one-trick pony, but that's not the case. There's just so much shit out there to listen to. It's hard to find his gems. He has no filter. Like it's like as if Frank Zappa released every recording he ever made. Like you couldn't tolerate it. Most of them would be unlistenable. But yeah, I love Praxis. I love that song. It's a great example of some of their best work, I think. The Sound Virus album is kind of a lost album. Like no one talks about that album. It's all about the first one we listened to last time, like the transmutation, profactionation, whatever the heck it's called, and
yeah.
And then the Sacrifice, I see a lot of attention go to that one because it's got the Yakima Sudik in there as well, and it's got John Zorn, and it's like a very fast, like in your face album. But Sound Virus is a really, really good album. So what is the provenance of Sound Virus then? Because I'm looking at the Praxis discography on Wikipedia here, and it has it listed as 2015 Sound Virus as an EP, either an EP or a compilation. I guess it would be a compilation then. Yeah.
But on the Bandcamp page it says this is not a reissue nor compilation. It's a restored, edited, enhanced, and remastered version, a reconstruction. So is this an album that existed, or is this music that existed years previously to 2015 when this was released?
I think so, yeah. I'm under the impression, because I don't think Praxis has done much other than I think they toured or did a couple of reunion shows, but as far as I know, they haven't made any new music in at least like 10, 15 years. Like I think Profanation.
It's kind of annoying that they don't, a lot of people on Bandcamp do this, they don't put the dates. I love to know the dates when things were recorded so that I can place them in the continuum. Yeah. And I'm not seeing that here either on the Wikipedia page or on the Bandcamp page, so I'm kind of lost. So your knowledge is probably better than mine on this.
So like, because if you take a look at, say, their second album, Sacrifice, you look at the personnel. It's got Buckethead, it's got Brain, it's got Yamatsuka it's got John Zorn, right? It's got there's some extra guys there like Bootsy Collins and whatnot. They're not going to see in the album we just listened to, but I have a feeling that it was kind of recorded around the same time this album was made, which is in the early 90s, right? So
Okay, yeah, it sounds like that, but it's maybe been sort of updated for well, it says it's restored, edited, enhanced, and remastered version. I guess that was because I know that the last thing that Bill himself released was he was talking about a new Sonic kind of idea that he was working on. So I guess this maybe fits into that it was a reimagining of what had gone before, and to some degree, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, because there's not a lot of information out there because it just people don't care enough to dig it out and present it, right? So I'd love to ask Bill or Bucket, or Brain information about it, because Bernie Worrell is not with us anymore, but and Buckethead doesn't do interviews. He's done one interview ever, like a real interview once. And so maybe we get Brain on the show. We'll ask him. Maybe he can tell us.
That assumes that if you could get access to any of them, that any of them actually remember anything about it, because they're all doing so much music.
Yeah.
Putting myself in that position, if you asked me, I probably wouldn't have a clue, because I would be doing so much. I don't remember my own stuff, and I haven't done nearly as much as them.
I know what you're saying.
So it's it's probably it's the fact that there's not that sort of information that I would like is probably a result of that they it's all lost in the mists of time to some degree. There's probably a master tape somewhere that has the date of the recording on it, but that's not been brought forward through to the sort of information that the punters get.
Yeah, and it does say in the Wikipedia page about Praxis, the very last line at the end of the biography, or second last line, in 2015 the band released a new album called Sound Virus, and that's all it says in there about it, right? And but based on the musicians on the band, I think it feels like to me like it was recorded early on, but who knows? It's
well, there it says there as well that in 2022 Laswell, Buckethead and Brain played 2 shows in New York, so
yeah.
We might get a recording of that at some point. We could probably look that up on YouTube and see a bit of that.
Yeah, and unfortunately it'd probably be cell phone videos, but it'd still be cool to check out.